So, I've decided to make a video on Middle-earth today, as honestly, I just love this world. I personally feel as if this universe that Tolkien created has inspired many, if not all of the modern fantasy works we love today. Now, one aspect of this world that's always interested me is Sauron, because despite the fact that he is arguably the main antagonist of the books, unless we read the extra material, we don't actually find out that much about him. Not knowing that much about this character left me with many questions, one of which was, if Sauron is so powerful, why did he even bother to risk putting a large portion of his power into the One Ring? What benefit does it give him? So, today I hope to cover this question and present to you all the reasons why. To begin with, I will explain to you a brief history of the Rings of Power's creation. Originally, there were 19 Rings of Power, 16 of which were forged with the help of Sauron. These rings were forged by the elven smith Celebrimbor, at the request of Sauron, who was disguised as a being known as Anatar, or, as he is also known, the Lord of Gifts. And just to say quickly guys, it wasn't just Celebrimbor that made these rings, there was also some smiths from Eregion. Sauron instructed the elven smiths of Eregion on how to make these rings, but unbeknownst to them, the method of creating these rings imprinted a binding magic into them. Celebrimbor was distrustful of Sauron, so created the 3 elven rings by himself, except he did use some of Sauron's methods, so they still had a connection to what Sauron would eventually make, which is the One Ring. Anyway, these rings were then given to the various important races of Middle-earth. 7 to the Dwarf Lords, 9 to mortal men, and then the 3 Celebrimbor made were given to the Elven Lords in secret. The basic idea behind these rings is that they would give their wielder more power. However, what Sauron hadn't told Celebrimbor or the Smiths is that he had forged a ring of his own. This ring was forged in Mount Doom, and was the most powerful of them all. In fact, this ring was known as the One Ring. Now, you may be wondering why Sauron's ring was so powerful, and the reason why is that Sauron poured a large portion of his own strength into the ring. This caused Sauron to be significantly weaker without his ring, but with this ring, he now possessed much more power than he did before, as he now had control over all the other rings of power and their bearers. As soon as Sauron put on his Ring of Power, the Elven Lords became aware of it, so they took off their 3 rings. This caused Sauron to declare open war against them, but the rings remained hidden. Clearly Sauron's plan did not go according to plan, as also the 7 Dwarf Lords were never under his control. It's thought that this was because the dwarves' will was like iron, and not even Sauron could influence them. However, these rings created a great greed within their dwarven bearers. This great greed brought ruin to them and their people. For example, think of Thorin's grandfather. He had a ring of power and he was, let's just say, very greedy, and then that brought Smaug. But Sauron did have control over the 9 rings that were given to men. The rings that were given to men eventually caused these men to turn into ring wraiths, which were effectively an immortal task force under Sauron's control, and they were led by the Witch King of Angmar. The One Ring also allowed Sauron to exist should his physical form die. This was because not only a large portion of his power was put into the ring, but also a large part of himself now existed within it. This meant that as long as that ring existed in Middle-earth, so did Sauron. So, to summarize, the reason Sauron created these rings was effectively to increase his own power. If he could take control over the kingdoms of elves, dwarves, and men without even having to fight a war, it would make controlling Middle-earth much simpler. The One Ring, as I said before, also acted as a way for Sauron to live, should his physical form die. In a way, it was also security, because now he knew that should he die one day, he could probably come back should the ring still exist. Also, the fact that he'd poured so much of his power and his corruption into this ring, it would corrupt anyone that would actually hold the ring. So this was also almost a safety mechanism, because not only would the bearer of this ring have to go to Mount Doom to even destroy it, they would also have to want to destroy this ring, which most people would just simply not do. I mean, by the end of Lord of the Rings, the ring was only destroyed by accident. It was never actually destroyed because somebody wanted to destroy it. One thing I'd like to mention, because I know a lot of you guys are going to talk about this, it's the fact that when I told you about how the rings were created and all the rest, that is just a very, very basic rundown of the rings and how they were given out to all the races. I know there's a lot surrounding it, they might have been given to this race instead of this race and so on, but that's effectively the very basic rundown, and that's how it all ended up in the end. And I will make a longer video in the future on why the rings were given to these races, if the rings were intended for other races initially and they were changed and all the rest, but for now that's just a very basic thing to illustrate the point I wanted to make that's in the title. Anyway guys, I hope you've all enjoyed today's video. This has been quite fun to make, as honestly I've done a lot of Witcher lore and I do like a lot of other fantasy universes and universes in general. I'll try and keep it as much fantasy as I can, as I know you guys, you enjoy that, that's a big part of the channel, and also I just really felt like making a different type of video today. If you want to see more Middle-earth lore as well as the Witcher lore that I always do, be sure to like the video, as I'll definitely make more if you guys actually enjoy it. This is a new thing for me, and honestly I'm really curious to see what you guys think about it. If this is the first video you're finding on my channel, I'll probably do some more Middle-earth stuff soon. I'll probably do some Witcher stuff if you like that, and I'll also talk about things that I'm interested in and just stuff like that in general, so be sure to subscribe if you're interested in any of that or want to see any of that. Also guys, be sure to follow me on Twitter, I do updates on there, I'm sure you know that by now. Any videos, any pictures, anything like that I just want to show you, I'll put it on there. Be sure to follow me on Twitch, I'll do some more games on there soon. Maybe I'll play some games on there like the Middle-earth games, or maybe I'll do them on the channel. I feel like that might have a place on the channel and it might be quite fun, so we'll see. Also, be sure to join the Reddit and Discord, I'm sure you all know why now. And finally, a big thank you to the Patreon pledges. You guys are honestly amazing. I just want to say thank you all so much. It's very, very kind what you do, and you're all honestly amazing. Thank you all so much. Anyway guys, I hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have an awesome rest of the week.